Hey, good morning. I'm Vic Senese, and this is UroNurse News. Today, we're looking at a question that patients ask every day in clinical settings, and one that continues to generate debate in medical research. Does the type of alcohol you drink really matter when it comes to health risk? Is wine better for you than beer? Or are spirits the same risk in a different glass? A major 2026 study may offer some clarity, but also raises important cautions about how we interpret alcohol and health. Now, researchers followed more than 34,000 adults in the United Kingdom for over 13 years, examining both alcohol quantity and beverage type in relation to mortality outcomes. Here's what they found. At higher levels of drinking, risk increased significantly across the board. All-cause mortality increased by 24%. Cancer mortality increased by 36%. Cardiovascular mortality increased by 14%. In other words, more alcohol consistently meant more risk. But at low to moderate levels, something more interesting emerged. The study found that beverage type appears to matter at lower intake levels. Wine was associated with the lower all-cause and cardiovascular mortality risk. Beer, cider, and spirits were associated with higher risk, even at similar drinking levels. Most notably, cardiovascular outcomes showed a striking difference. Low to moderate wine consumption, 21% lower risk of cardiovascular death. Beer, cider, and spirits, about 9% higher cardiovascular risk. But before anyone interprets this as wine is healthy message, researchers and clinicians urge caution. Why might wine appear different? Red wine contains compounds like polyphenols and resveratrol, which has been studied for potential cardiovascular effects such as supporting blood vessel function, mild antioxidant activity, and possible effects on HDL cholesterol. White wine contains other antioxidants, including catecholic acid, which has also been studied for heart health. However, here's the critical point. The body absorbs these compounds poorly, and the quantities needed for meaningful benefit would require drinking levels that would probably increase harm. So any potential advantage most likely is modest at best. The study linked drinking levels as low intake up to one drink a day for women, 2 drinks for men. Moderate intake was 2 drinks a day for women. Men, we get 3. And high intake above those levels. And again, risk increased substantially in the high intake group, regardless of beverage type. So while wine showed different patterns at lower levels, alcohol itself still remained a risk factor overall. Researchers and clinicians caution that this was an observational study, meaning it cannot prove causation. It relies on self-reported drinking data. Lifestyle differences likely influenced outcomes. For example, wine drinkers may also have healthier diets, higher socioeconomic status, more consistent medical care, different lifestyle habits, all which can influence mortality risk independent of the alcohol itself. So regardless of what beverage type, alcohol carries well-established health risk. Heavy or chronic use can increase blood pressure and cardiovascular risk, disrupt gut health and increase inflammation, damage the liver and increase cancer risk, impair brain function and sleep quality. Importantly, alcohol is classified as a known carcinogen linked to cancer of the liver, breast, colon, esophagus, and probably more. Medical organizations remain cautious. The World Health Organization states there is no completely safe level of alcohol consumption, while U.S. guidelines emphasize moderation rather than health promotion. Most clinicians now focus on reducing overall intake, avoid binge drinking, and prioritizing non-alcohol strategies for heart, such as diet, exercise, and smoking cessation. So, what's the takeaway? At low levels, wine may show association with slightly lower cardiovascular risk compared to beer or spirits. But across all categories, the strongest, most consistent finding remains More alcohol equals more risk, and any potential benefit from specific beverages is small, uncertain, and easily outweighed by known harms. In clinical practice, the message is simple. There is no truly healthy alcoholic beverage, only levels of risk that vary with dose, context, and individual health factors. Now, UroNurse News will continue to bring you the latest evidence-based insights and that matter in the real-world healthcare decisions. So stay informed, stay critical, and stay evidence-driven. Tonight, on Dr. Jeff Talks About Sex and Intimacy. What if treating prostate cancer didn't have to mean sacrificing quality of life? We're going to dive into one of the most exciting advances in urologic oncology, focal therapy for prostate cancer, a precision-based approach designed to target only cancerous tissue while preserving surrounding structures that matter most for urinary and sexual health. Tomorrow on UroNurse News, we take a closer look at a discovery that's turning heads in genetics and developmental biology. Researchers report that a change in just one DNA letter may be enough to trigger complete sex reversal, raising big questions about how finely tuned and surprisingly fragile human sexual development can be. What does this mean for patients with disorders of sexual development? Could this reshape how we think about genetic testing, diagnosis, and personalized care in urology and endocrinology? We'll break it all down in clear clinical terms. No hype, just the science and what it means moving forward.
UroNurse News every weekday at 9 a.m. Central Time.
UroNurse News every weekday at 9 a.m. Central Time. Bringing you the news that shines. UroNurse News.